projects that I've glimpsed before I assumed office, and what I've heard is that no provision is there for fuel subsidy. The fuel subsidy is gone. Subsidy can no longer justify an ever increasing cost in the wake of dry resources. We shall instead channel whatever to form monetary policy. Though house cleaning, thorough house cleaning is necessary. The central bank must work towards a unified exchange rate.
Yes, Nigerian people, greetings to you all, and this is the Comrade Show TCS. Yes, those were the very first, important policy statements by the newly inaugurated President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as President of Nigeria. And of course, for many of us who follow, government and understand the workings of government, we equally know that the words of a president, the body language of a president, the eye contact of a president, their policies, and of course the impact on the people. Of course, Bola Ahmed Tinubu made this statement. Whether these statements, that he made on the day of his inauguration were statements, which impact he prepared for or not, of course, remains to be seen. But the impact of what he has said has thrown Nigeria into some sort of commotion, hardship. Life has become, even more unbearable for the Nigerian people, because just immediately after that statement, marauders and of course the people they call the marketers took advantage of that statement, and we've seen skyrocketing, prices of, petroleum, product, petrol, kerosene, diesel, and all of that. And as a matter of fact, hoarding has started. Some filling stations as we speak are not, opened for business. Nigerians are beginning to suffer even more. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are walking right now, trekking, far distances to get to wherever they want to get to. And, long queues in filling stations that are even opened at all. And even those that are opened, of course, the price increase is surprisingly, in some cases, more than 300%. And we equally understand that these price increases definitely will not just only impact, transportation. It definitely would impact every other thing, that of course anchors, business on transportation. That has been the impact of the statement of Mr. President. And of course, there's been reactions all around. On your mandate will stand. While some are struggling to defend this position, others are saying that this is a position, a policy statement by Mr. President that the president was not prepared for, and all of that. And that while the majority of Nigerians appear to favor the removal of fuel subsidy, but it should be done in a way that the state prepares for it, in a way that it will not be of this kind of impact to the people of Nigeria. And of course, there's been, loads of negotiations. We are aware that the NLC leadership has met with the president over this matter, defending the interest of the workers of Nigeria. And of course, that meeting came to deadlock, and the NLC has a statement to make. And of course, reputable, lawyers in Nigeria have come out, to say that the statement by Mr. President and the reaction, by the principal players towards this statement is illegal. And we are going to hear from some of them. But before we go into the NLC and of course some of these reputable lawyers and all of that, a lot of people are equally questioning on the sideline. Are we now running a democracy, or we are running a military regime or a monarchy? This is coming on the heels of the fact that one of the very first few meetings held by Mr. President, the President of Nigeria, with principal stakeholders of the Nigerian economy, including the leadership of, the leadership of NNPC, the what's it called, the security chiefs, and all of that. Nigerians were surprised to see the wife of Mr. President, with her ADC, and the president, and with his ADC and the vice president sat in this meeting, very important meeting, meetings that, held by the newly inaugurated president, with his wife, taking a center position, and the people are now arguing that, we are now running a different kind of democracy. You see right there, Mr. President and his ADC, the wife of Mr. President and her ADC, and of course, the vice president holding important meetings, of state, and people are now beginning to wonder, we probably are now having a president, a deputy president, and a vice president, and that has made people to question, are we actually running a democracy currently, or we are running some sort of a monarchy, a presidential monarchy, and all of that. Well, it remains to be seen how, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu, regime, so to speak, is going to definitely express herself, particularly again immediately after the inauguration of Mr. President. The wife, this daughter, first daughter of Mr. President, Folashade Tinubu Ojo, went on her Twitter handle, and that got a lot of people talking, to quickly change her title to become officially known as her Twitter handle read, "This is the official handle of Iyaloja General of Nigeria, the first daughter of FRON, first daughter, has become an officer." As a matter of fact, she's gone about issuing statements, policy statements in her own right and all of that. And so we don't know how all of these, families, and their, self-carved offices are now going to be constitutionalized. But what we're already saying is that this matter is already taken beyond, what those who are proponents of Bola Ahmed Tinubu probably bargained for. And so it would be right, somehow for people to, in these early stages, probably, address this, regime, so to speak, or, as a monarchy, probably, but it remains to be seen how the future of this government is going to express herself. But going further, the president has made some moves in the early stages. Some appointments have been, confirmed and ratified. As a matter of fact, the chief of staff of Mr. President has been named. The SSG has been named. The deputy chief of staff have been named, and you can see them right there. Of course, we now know that Femi Gbajabiamila, the outgoing Speaker of the House of Representative, is the chief of staff of President Tinubu, while George Akume is the secretary to the state government. Of course, George Akume is secretary to the state government, and the the deputy chief of staff is former Jigawa State Deputy Governor Ibrahim Adejia as the Deputy CoS. When you look at these names, you find out that they are all, players in government. George Akume is the former, governor of Jigawa State, if I'm not mistaken. Former governor of Benue. So these people have all been players in government, and so it's people are beginning to ask a question, okay, because what we already see in these early stages is the same old faces, under some new voice, as it were. It's just like putting an old wine in a new bottle. It does not instill any form of confidence. It does not instill any form of confidence at all. And Nigerians are doubtful if this government at all, is going to be, any different from what we have always seen. Because what we see right here, they are just the same old people we've always seen in government, the same old people that have always been players, that have kept Nigeria where Nigeria is, that have led Nigeria in the lines of corruption, that have led Nigeria in the lines of subjugation. They are the same old people that we are seeing right now in these early stages, holding key positions. Secretary of State Government, CoS, Deputy CoS. These are the same old players and all of that. But it remains to be seen because, of course, we cannot predict the temper of a chick still in its egg. It remains to be seen what all of this is going to lead to. However, we must quickly zero down to the issue of oil subsidy removal, in a statement by Mr. President that appear, to be, that appear and looks like government was ill prepared for it and all of that. But quickly, just in the last 48 hours, the NLC, leadership has met with Mr. President to try to negotiate, some soft landing, particularly looking at the interest of the, Nigerian people, because some of the things that we are seeing, they are not looking palatable at all. Things that have, that have evolved and come out, in the public, space, they don't look palatable. Life has become increasingly very difficult for Nigerians. But let us listen to, how dissatisfied the NLC leadership, appear to, to look. They look quite dissatisfied, and they issued a statement immediately after the meeting with the leadership of the Nigerian state, the leadership of, President Tinubu. Let's take a listen.
As far as Labour is concerned, we didn't have a consensus in this meeting. Is that okay?
Are you still going to stand on the fact that they should actually go back to status quo?
That's the principle of negotiation. You don't put the partner, ask him to negotiate under gunpoint.
What are the prayers of the NLC?
The prayers of NLC is that we go back to status quo, negotiate, think of alternatives, and all the effects and how to manage the effects this action is going to have on the people. If it is an action that must take off.
Does it mean restoration of subsidy?
Well, the subsidy provision has been made up to the end of June. And before then, conscious people, labor, management, government should be able to think of what will happen at the end of June. You don't start it before the time.
The original deadline.
So why did they make provision up to end of June?
No, the original
Who's lying?
deadline was February 17th.
So why is it up to now?
That was at the discretion of the last administration.
Fine. The last administration made it up to end of June. Why can't we respect the sanctity of even that law that provided for that expenditure up to the end of June?
Okay, but is the NLC considerate with the federal government when they say that there's no fund, they can't fund all of this, they can't raise money to fund the subsidy?
What is the purpose of governance? What's the purpose of governance? Is it the duty of NLC to raise funds for the government, to collect tax, to sell crude at the international market when the price of crude is going high? And the government that is a major exporter of a crude product is telling him there's no money. Other countries that are in the same scenario are eating fat.
Mr. President, do you think it's realistic to continue payment of subsidy?
Why do you keep on hammering on subsidy? What do you understand by subsidy? Has anybody explained to you the meaning of subsidy? What did they say is subsidy? Is there any country, even in the US, that has subsidy on wheat products? Is there any country that does not subsidize living of people, even if it by providing public transportation? Well, those are issues we are looking at. If you're a major, producer of crude, and you refine abroad, you carry the crude abroad and refine and bring it, definitely there will be difference in the price, and that's what they are paying. If your fathers establish a refinery and that refinery dies in your hands and you are now refining abroad, you ask yourself some questions. You have refineries, Kaduna, Warri, Sapele, Port Harcourt. Why are they not functioning? That we had to go and refine abroad. The transportation money, the refining cost at international price or rate, and we bring it back here. And the same government pays the difference in cost of what it is here and what it's internationally. That's the subsidy they are telling you about.
But what happens if the government says they cannot practice?
You are still talking in the sense of in the state of dictatorship. What will happen if this state is not all about conversation? It's not democratic way. If you say this thing is happening this way and you are engaged in discussion, if what happens there is take it or leave it, which doesn't have any space in the current dispensation. It's all about the people. It won't matter. If they say, this is the project you are bringing, you are removing subsidy, you have been spending money for this difference. Remember 2011, we were here, this compound, and we agreed on some principles. Repair our refineries, to start operation latest by December last year. They were not done. We agreed on issue of CNG. The CNG product is eco-friendly and is cheaper than the PMS they're selling now. And some people say they can convert within 3 months. If we have done all these things, what will you be calling subsidy? The Dangote refinery is there to be producing. If any of these refineries are producing, we won't have all this challenge we are having today. That's the language of labor. Now, will anybody increase their salary by 300% with what has happened now? This question is going to come to the basics. As of today, transportation has gone beyond that. I don't know what they're paying you, but you cannot, it's not enough for your transportation. That's what we are saying. It's not because there is any dogma on subsidy. No, but we should converse in a free environment and atmosphere and arrive. If we agree for a meeting by 2 today, and in the morning, you come out with price modulation. How can you fix price in a deregulated market? If you are talking of deregulation in the classical sense of it, it has to be determined by market forces. What I buy, I sell. But by the time you now dictate the prices, this amount. Now what is happening? Is that deregulation?
But that was just NNPC's price. They didn't dictate to other independent marketers.
So which other are the marketers?
We haven't seen other prices yet.
Which are the marketers? Which are the sole importers of this product? Who are the other marketers? So my colleague will have a lot to tell you guys.
You guys don't sound optimistic about this meeting. It's about to consume in a few hours.
Okay. No.
Go ahead.
Okay. We'll change. Yeah, you said.
You don't sound optimistic about this meeting that is going to continue in a few hours.
Yes, if you listen to the president during the inauguration at Eagle Square, he said that one of the hallmark of this administration is going to be dialogue, is going to be consultation, and that that this will be the hallmark, that they are not going to lord it over us, trying to paraphrase what he said, and not to be a dictator. So if you read it, it is clearly written there. And what has happened in terms of, as of today, has not shown what was written in his address. So all we've said before now was that, just as alluded to by my colleague as well, was that we ought to have sat down and have this conversation. At times it's difficult, before anything could have happened. We have been open to conversations. We started it in 2012. 2020, 2021, and somewhat part of 2022. But at the end of the day, they told us that they were not removing subsidy. So there was no conversation whatsoever. So for over a year, there wasn't formal engagements and formal meetings. And because there were informal engagements and meetings, that is why we found ourselves here today. If we had met before, before now, we could have proposed a lot of things.
Anyway, fellow Nigerians, the point here is that the issue of subsidy is creating a huge problem for Nigerian people. And there is no way we can shy away from this subject matter because the hardship is so much. We have, well over 80 million Nigerians, living below the poverty line. And this cannot be ignored, with pump prices, rising like this. Already, we're already seeing increment in every other, day-to-day products. And the statement made by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that the excess of the money being spent on subsidy will be channeled into other departments. It's not the first time we are getting such messages in this country, but it's something that in another phase of this broadcast, some other time we're going to look at, because the Nigerian government historically is never to be trusted. What we are seeing, what some people are already alluding to, is that we're already seeing a strategy to impoverish Nigerian people the more, make them pay more, for fuel increases and all of that. And it will be to the benefit of the richer class, because we are never going to see anything different from what we already have. So whatever is going to be, whatever is being spent, by way of subsidizing this product for the Nigerian people, eventually is going to go into the pocket of a very few, at the expense of the Nigerian people and all of that. On the issue of Dangote refinery and the hope that it will alleviate the suffering of Nigerian people is something that we are looking forward to. But again, I shall do a broadcast on the issue of Dangote refinery, because I've made the case over and over again. It remains to be proven that the impact of Dangote, on the Nigerian economy is actually having any positive effect on the Nigerian people. Because looking at how mighty Dangote is and has been, and all of that, on very many different areas. I take example, the issue of cement, production. You understand what I'm saying? And Dangote is one of the biggest players in the world when it comes to cement and every other thing. And yet, the ordinary people cannot buy cement to even, build a block of flats, as the case is, and all of that, So the same thing cuts across so many other, products produced by Dangote and all of that. So now we are getting a refinery, and people are estimating that this will make life easier. It remains to be seen, but we are watching. And why people have equally argued that it is not just Dangote. All of these political actors, a lot of them have invested into the Dangote conglomerate. They are shareholders, they are principal players, and all of that. And they are the ones equally, who belong to the ruling class. And so they want to maximize profit. And each time they are doing that, it doesn't matter. So I'm saying now, provided they maximize profit, and the profit they maximize always at the expense of Nigerian people. But this is a case that we are looking very closely at, and that we are going to, be speaking to in future. We want to see how some of these things, of course, turn out. You understand what I'm saying? I'm hoping that for those who are very doubtful that the impact of Dangote, not just in this petroleum, the refinery that is, he's built, in a lot of other things, you understand what I'm saying? That the impact has not really been felt, by a wider such section of the society. Of course, people have equally argued to give kudos to Dangote for creating massive employment and all of that. But when it comes to downstream, the major consumers of the product and every other thing, from cement to sugar to tomatoes to all of those things, it's at all-time high for the Nigerian people. And so people are making the case now to say that if other things that we have seen of Dangote are the way they are, not really affecting prices for the final consumers, as it were. People are not really very hopeful that even the fuel, the what's it called, the refinery itself may even do that. You understand? But it remains to be seen. And some people, some commentators have equally said, that probably this policy, horrid policy by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's probably all linked to having to ensure that those who have invested in the private sector when it comes to refining petroleum crude oil, they want to ensure they maximize profit. And that is why the government of Nigeria, continue to ensure that the 4 refineries that we have, national refineries, remain grounded. You understand? So long as they are grounded, it gives the private players, room, to maximize profit at the expense of Nigerian people. Because if we had the 4 refineries, Warri, Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and all of that, if we have all of them working, in full capacity, there is no way that Nigerians will be complaining today that things are very, very difficult. Because those products will have been in the market at, cheaper rates. You understand what I'm saying? Now, we'll not be talking about, the impact of market forces, which is determined majorly by exchange rate and all of those things. You understand? They would have been locally produced here, supplied to Nigerian people and all of that, and things would have been relatively cheap. But because those who are to ensure that our refineries are working, they are the same people in government. They have always ensured, over the years, that the refineries are grounded so that all these private players, can actually have a free day. But we'll see what happens. But interestingly, Femi Falana, a very, credible, legal mind, has something to say about the legality of NNPC. With the role NNPC is playing, particularly with NNPC, coming up, to announce, what is it called, a current, price, you understand what I'm saying, of the product. He has something to say about the legality of this, and my mind personally was blown listening to Femi Falana. Let's take a listen to Femi Falana on this.
And that implies that all actions of government and its agencies will have to comply with the law. The NNPC has metamorphosed into a limited liability company. It is now NNPC Limited. To that extent, the NNPC, like Total, like ExxonMobil, like Shell, operating in the oil industry, cannot announce increases in the prices of petroleum products. That duty is vested in the government. So, and that is what I mean. There is a judgment of the court, Federal High Court, which has not been set aside. The case of Bamidele Aturu and the Minister of Petroleum Resources. This judgment was delivered in the Federal High Court in Abuja here by Justice Adamu Bello, now retired, to the effect that nobody has the right in Nigeria to fix the prices of petroleum products other than the government. Because you have the Price Control Act, and at that time, the Petroleum Act. Now, PIA Act. So you ask the NNPC, where have you got the powers to fix the prices of petroleum products, or the price of petrol this time around? From 185 or thereabout to 540. How? So, and that implies that all actions of government and its agencies.
Well, that is Femi Falana speaking on the legality of NNPC, playing the role that they are playing currently. Because NNPC right now is now like every other player in the industry, ExxonMobil, Total, and all of that. Which means that the onus lie on Mr. President and his administration to determine what the prices are. And of course, the labor leadership have argued too that there is no way somebody can begin to fix some uniform price in a deregulated market. These are intricacies in these. But what impacts us, you understand what I'm saying? Our concern is how this policy is already affecting the Nigerian people. Things have become really, really difficult. Really, really difficult. And of course, in the coming days, we're going to be showing a lot more excerpts, on these. So fellow Nigerians, we just want to, make sense of the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu so far, just some few days into the administration. Now, we have not come out now to make any judgments, not at all. How this whole thing will pan out, we do not know. How the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to go, we do not know. Of course, we know that there are matters in court. How that is going to equally turn out, we do not know. And so, but based on the face value of what we have seen so far, of course, we are making, these statements, and some of us can confidently say that what is happening right now, it's not the right way to go. There are many of us who are proponents of, subsidy must go, but subsidy has to go, with government putting some other measures in place to cushion the effect of subsidy. This has been, subsidy removal. This has been, a long discourse. You understand what I'm saying? And part of those things that government needed to have done was to ensure that the 4 refineries in Nigerian refineries, they are working. You understand what I'm saying? And substituting for this whole arrangement. Because at the end of the day, when you look at, when you hear the figures, how much the Nigerian government is spending to subsidize petroleum products. You understand? It's a shame that we produce the crude oil. We send the crude oil out abroad. You understand what I'm saying? And for other people to refine them for us and bring them back, and we now back at higher rates. You understand what I'm saying? It's all a huge disaster. You understand? And the disaster is not like they are occasioned, by herself, but these are deliberate disasters created by players in government and all of that. And whether Tinubu is going to depart from this disaster and truly work for the Nigerian people remains to be seen. Again, the fear is that, like I've mentioned before, when the government says that they want to remove the subsidy, the money spent on subsidy and channel it on other things and all of that, if that is true, that is going to be a good feature for Nigerian people. But what we have seen that the government does is that they take this money and, of course, embezzle the money. You understand? We saw it with the Buhari regime. We saw it with market money that had no impact at all on the Nigerian people. You understand what I'm saying? Now, billions, we assume to have been shared to some people who are poor, and yet nobody saw the effect of that. But what everybody can safely assume is that, of course, they share these monies, amongst themselves and all of that. And so it remains to be seen what is going to happen. But so far, Nigerians are suffering more than ever before. And this is heralding the beginning of the Tinubu administration. In this case, some people call it Tinubu's regime / monarchy. My people, it's been the Comrade Show. My name is Comrade Lamte Oriaki. We are monitoring, and every day we're going to be coming out to talk about what we see, all in a bid to have a better future, a better Nigeria. God bless you all for staying with us. Please share the broadcast if you could. It would be nice. Bye for now.
Comrade Show with Comrade Lamte Oriaki. This is the Comrade Show.